My wife secretly cheated with a store owner near home and my mom silently helped hide it, so I planned to ruin their lives. At 51 years old, I find myself reflecting on a journey that began 13 years ago when circumstances forced me to leave everything I knew behind. My wife Mona, now 48, remained in Texas along with our 2 children, who have since grown into independent adults at 23 and 21, both now residing in Houston and building their own lives. The catalyst for this life-altering decision traces back 13 to 14 years ago, during one of America's most devastating economic downturns. The Great Recession, triggered by the catastrophic housing bubble collapse, swept through the nation like a merciless storm, leaving countless businesses and families in ruins. Our construction company, which I had inherited and been managing since my father's passing, became yet another casualty of this economic disaster. Within what felt like mere moments, everything we had built over generations crumbled into nothing. The weight of responsibility during those dark days was almost unbearable. I stood as the sole provider and protector for my aging mother, whose needs had become increasingly demanding, my wife Mona, who had always depended on the stability our business provided, and our 2 school-aged children, whose education and future hung in the balance. The economic instability made it virtually impossible to maintain our previous standard of living, let alone plan for the future. Every dollar saved over the years, every safety net we had carefully constructed, vanished as we desperately tried to keep our heads above water. When our resources finally ran dry and all conventional options had been exhausted, I faced the most agonizing decision of my life, leaving my family to seek opportunities elsewhere. The search for viable alternatives led me across multiple Asian countries, each presenting its own unique challenges and disappointments. Finally, after months of struggle and uncertainty, Dubai emerged as the beacon of hope I desperately needed. Establishing a business in this foreign land proved to be an incredibly arduous journey, filled with cultural barriers, legal complexities, and the constant ache of homesickness. Yet, it was my unwavering commitment to providing my family with the lifestyle they deserved that sustained me through every obstacle and setback. The initial phase of my Dubai venture demanded complete dedication and focus. For over a year following my departure from Texas, I remained immersed in the complexities of establishing my new business, unable to return home even briefly. The demands of navigating foreign regulations, building professional relationships, and securing a stable foundation for my enterprise consumed every waking moment. Once the groundwork was finally laid and my venture began showing signs of sustainability, I established a routine of returning home approximately every 5 to 6 months, cherishing these precious reunions with my family. During those early years, I harbored hopes of eventually relocating my entire family to Dubai. The prospect of reuniting permanently filled me with anticipation, yet Mona and the children expressed strong reservations about such a drastic move. Their primary concern centered on the potential disruption to the children's educational journey, and I couldn't argue with their logic. Consistency in schooling was paramount to their academic success and future prospects. The dynamics shifted significantly last year when my youngest daughter successfully completed her college education and secured employment at her sister's company. This milestone represented not just personal achievement but also the culmination of years of sacrifice and planning. Recognizing this as a pivotal moment in our family's evolution, I meticulously planned a special vacation home, eager to spend quality time with her before she fully embarked on her independent adult life. It was during this meaningful visit that I broached the subject that had been weighing heavily on my mind. With both children now established in their own lives and careers, I approached Mona with what I believed would be welcome news, the possibility of her finally joining me in Dubai. To my surprise and disappointment, she immediately declined, citing concern for my mother's well-being. She would be left completely alone, Mona explained, her voice carrying a tone of finality that caught me off guard. Determined to find a solution that would satisfy everyone's needs, I proposed that my mother could accompany us to Dubai, where we could ensure her proper care while finally reuniting our family. However, both women firmly rejected this suggestion, expressing deep reluctance about abandoning their familiar surroundings for an entirely foreign environment. Their reasoning was understandable and valid. The cultural chasm between Texas and the Middle East was indeed substantial, encompassing everything from social customs to daily lifestyle practices. Respecting their perspective and not wanting to force such a significant life change upon them, I chose not to pursue the matter further. The conversation that would prove most telling occurred during my subsequent visit home. With genuine excitement and anticipation, I shared what I believed would be the most wonderful news possible: my decision to conclude my Dubai operations and return permanently to Texas. I had envisioned Mona's face lighting up with joy, imagining her relief and happiness at the prospect of our long-awaited reunion. Instead, her reaction was disturbingly lukewarm and unexpectedly subdued. When I directly questioned whether she truly wanted us to resume living together as husband and wife, her response was hesitant and unconvincing. "No, I'm happy," she said, though her demeanor suggested otherwise. "It's just that you've invested so much effort and sacrifice into building your success there, why would you want to abandon everything and return now?" While her words contained a grain of practical wisdom, and I acknowledged that dismantling something that had required such tremendous personal sacrifice wasn't a decision to be made lightly, her lack of enthusiasm struck me as profoundly troubling. After 13 long years of separation, with our primary responsibility, ensuring our children's education and successful launch into adulthood, now complete, I yearned desperately to return to the familiar comfort of my hometown, my roots, and most importantly, my wife. I provided her with detailed assurances about our financial security, explaining my plans to establish a new venture in Texas, taking advantage of the country's economic recovery. Despite these guarantees and my obvious longing to be reunited, she remained stubbornly unconvinced. This unexpected resistance raised the first significant red flag in my mind, though I chose to give her the benefit of the doubt, hoping there were underlying concerns I simply didn't fully understand. The following morning delivered a jarring surprise that would fundamentally reshape my understanding of the situation. My mother appeared at our home without any forewarning, her unexpected presence immediately signaling that something significant was afoot. Her opening words struck me with startling directness: "You really shouldn't be making such a hasty decision about moving back home." The statement hung in the air like an accusation, and I found myself grappling with the disturbing implications of her knowledge. The logical deduction was inescapable and deeply unsettling. I had maintained absolute secrecy regarding my plans to return to Texas, sharing this intensely personal decision exclusively with Mona during our private conversation the previous evening. The fact that my mother possessed such detailed information about my intentions could only mean one thing: Mona had immediately contacted her after our discussion, presumably seeking reinforcement for her position against my proposed return. This revelation left me profoundly shaken. While I had initially been prepared to rationalize Mona's resistance as perhaps stemming from legitimate practical concerns or natural anxiety about change, the discovery that my own mother had also positioned herself in opposition to my decision created an entirely different and far more troubling dynamic. The convergence of disapproval from both of the most influential women in my life triggered an unexpected crisis of self-confidence that I had never experienced before. When confronted with such unified resistance from those whose opinions carried the most weight in my world, I began to seriously question my own judgment and motivations. Perhaps my overwhelming desire to reunite with my family was clouding my ability to think rationally about the practical implications of such a major life change. Maybe my emotional longing was preventing me from recognizing potential problems that were glaringly obvious to others who could view the situation more objectively. This mounting self-doubt, combined with the pressure of their collective opposition, ultimately compelled me to make the reluctant decision to abandon my carefully considered plans. I convinced myself that their perspectives might be more balanced and realistic than my own emotionally driven reasoning, and consequently shelved the entire idea of returning home. However, despite this apparent resolution to the immediate conflict, a far deeper and more troubling concern continued to consume my thoughts with relentless persistence. The fundamental issue that had originally sparked my desire to return home remained completely unresolved: my wife's inexplicable reluctance to share her life with me. While I could potentially understand and even accept her practical objections to my relocation plans, what I found infinitely more difficult to reconcile was the profound emotional distance that seemed to have developed between us over the years. This growing sense of disconnection became an all-consuming obsession that dominated my thoughts and colored every interaction we had. The realization that my wife appeared to have no genuine desire to be with me created a fog of depression and confusion that settled heavily over my consciousness. After returning to Dubai from that particularly disappointing visit, I found myself deliberately reducing the frequency of my calls and text messages to her, implementing what I now recognize as a misguided test of her feelings and commitment to our relationship. My strategy was based on the naive hope that she would notice this sudden change in our communication patterns and reach out to inquire about my well-being or express concern about the obvious shift in my behavior. I waited expectantly for her to demonstrate that she missed our regular contact, that she valued our connection enough to investigate when something seemed amiss. Instead, I was met with a deafening silence that spoke volumes about the true state of our relationship. The experiment proved more devastating than I had anticipated. There were entire days when I deliberately refrained from calling her, expecting that she would eventually reach out to bridge the gap I had created. To my growing dismay, she made no effort whatsoever to contact me during these periods of silence. What began as isolated days of non-communication gradually expanded into weeks of minimal interaction, with our conversations becoming increasingly sterile and purely functional in nature. This pattern of communication revealed a truth that I had been desperately trying to avoid acknowledging. Our relationship had devolved into something purely transactional, devoid of the emotional intimacy and mutual need that should characterize a marriage. Her apparent indifference to my reduced contact strongly suggested that she no longer required my presence in her life beyond my role as a financial provider. The culmination of this painful realization drove me to take direct action last month. Unable to continue living with the uncertainty and emotional torment, I decided to confront her directly about the state of our relationship. With my heart pounding and my voice trembling slightly, I posed the question that had been haunting me: do you still love me, or have your feelings for me changed? The directness of my inquiry surprised even me, but I desperately needed to know the truth. Her response was frustratingly evasive and dismissive. She brushed off my concerns with an almost casual indifference, claiming that I was simply overthinking the situation and reading too much into perfectly normal circumstances. According to her explanation, she was merely preoccupied with the demanding responsibilities of maintaining our household and caring for my mother, whose advancing age had made her increasingly fragile and requiring more attention than ever before. I found myself at a complete loss for words, unsure how to respond to her justification. In truth, there was something genuinely admirable about finding a wife who had developed such a close and caring relationship with her mother-in-law, especially considering the challenges that such relationships typically present. I felt a genuine sense of gratitude toward Mona for her kindness and dedication to my mother's well-being, recognizing that not many women would embrace such responsibilities with apparent grace and commitment. My uneasiness is growing with each passing day. I cannot wrap my head around the question of why my wife would not want to be with me. We already have our own house. Our major responsibilities are over, and on top of that, I'm assuring her that our lifestyle won't be compromised. So why she doesn't want me home is not making sense. Yes, as you all are thinking, the same thing popped into my head too: maybe she had got someone better. But the thing is, how do I find out the truth? She has shown no other red flags until now. She had been a great mother, raising the children so bravely in my absence. It's not easy. She has fulfilled all her roles so elegantly. Sometimes I feel bad for suspecting her, but you know how long distance works. Any advice on how to find this out? Your situation is like trying to understand why people still use fax machines. It's outdated, complicated, and no one really knows what's going on. I mean, 13 years is a long time to be away from home. Sounds like she's actually gotten used to life without you. It's become her new normal, and honestly, it wouldn't be unheard of for someone to seek intimacy outside of a relationship when their husband isn't even home more than half the time. All that's to say that if she was cheating, you being away doesn't at all give her an excuse to cheat on you. I was glad to connect with you folks who shared their story of betrayal. Quite a lesson to learn. Mona had been cheating on me, and my mother knew about it all this while, but she didn't tell me anything. I don't know what I did to deserve this fate. I planned a surprise trip home. I didn't tell anyone about it, not even my mom. As I was entering my house, I dreaded bumping into Mona with her affair partner. Kind of funny, but after reading so many stories of cheating wives of deployed husbands, this is the one that came to my mind. Gladly, nothing of that sort happened. Mona was in the kitchen when I entered the house using the spare key. Yes, she was shocked to see me. I carried a bouquet with me to cover it up as a surprise. She was obviously surprised but also suspicious of my sudden appearance. She bombarded me with questions regarding my show up. I told her that I had light work that month, so I decided to come home. She forced a smile and pretended to be happy, but it looked evidently fake. I spent the next few weeks digging out the truth. I did everything a psychopath in my situation would have done. Not too proud of some of it, but yeah, I clearly had no choice. I sneaked into her phone, eavesdropped on her conversation, planted a GPS on her car, and followed her around the town. All this rendered information in bits and pieces, giving me a clear picture of what was happening in my absence back home. It came out that she had been seeing someone for the last 8 years. The day I arrived home, she was super guarded about her phone. Earlier, she used to clean all the evidence before I arrived. This time, she didn't get the opportunity. I tried snooping into her phone on the very first day but didn't get a chance, and when I was finally able to access it, I found nothing. She might have cleaned it up at the very first chance. Her cheating came to light when I placed a GPS device inside her car and followed her along. Initially, I didn't suspect anything when I found her entering a hardware store, but as I was waiting outside for her to return, I saw that the owner had turned down the shutter and closed his shop. I felt so dizzy seeing that. After a couple of hours, I saw her leaving the shop, and the owner opened the shutter after her car left the driveway. I wanted to go inside the shop to see the affair partner myself, but I stopped myself, thinking that maybe the affair partner would recognize me and ruin my plan. I waited for her to visit next so that I could catch them in the act. She had a pattern of stepping outside in the afternoon on some days. She would visit my mom, sometimes with her friends or parents. I mindlessly followed her everywhere, waiting for her to meet the affair partner. Finally, yesterday, She went to meet my mom. Usually on those days, I used to back off and didn't follow her further, and that's why it took me so long to catch her. But yesterday, I kept waiting there and found them leaving the house together. I didn't find it suspicious at all. I thought they were heading for shopping or something else. I didn't want to follow them, but something in me did that anyway. They stopped their car at the hardware store, and my heart sank. The affair partner came out and greeted them both. My mom and Mona both got out of the car. The affair partner kissed Mona right in front of my mom. They spoke for a few minutes, then the affair partner hugged Mom, and she sat inside the car and drove off. The affair partner and Mona went inside his shop, and he pulled down the shutter. I just couldn't believe my eyes. The betrayal from your wife was one thing, but betrayal from your own mother is something beyond imagination. The truth suffocated me to the extent that I had to walk down the pathway for a few minutes to regain my breath. After a while, I went to the shop and knocked. It went unanswered. I knocked vigorously until the affair partner opened the door. I asked him where is Mona, and he froze. I pushed him aside and barged inside the shop before he could react. The lights were off, and I could hear a feeble voice from the storeroom. I raced inside to find my wife lying bareback, touching herself and moaning for the affair partner. It was just for a fraction of a second before the affair partner pounced on me and dragged me outside the storeroom while Mona shrieked at the top of her voice. The moment was so chaotic that it took me a while to understand the situation. I punched the affair partner and freed myself. By then, Mona came out of the storehouse covering herself. I grabbed her neck and asked her how long. The affair partner tried to come to her rescue, but Mona stopped him. She started crying and pleading that we discuss this at home. I realized I might get into trouble for this scuffle, so I backed off, came outside, and drove off. I went to my mom's house. I barged inside the house shouting, "You knew it. You knew it. You also betrayed me." Mona had already called her because Mom didn't act surprised by my behavior. She just cried and held my hand, asking me to calm down. I broke down. Mona also arrived by then. Seeing her face made me angrier. I asked them to tell me the truth. After a lot of nudging, Mona said it was very lonely when you left. It's not easy to live alone for 13 years. You were so busy with your work that you hardly had any time for me. Your calls were limited to a few minutes, and it was more of a status check call regarding the children and Mom. What about me? I asked her how long this had been going on. She said 7 or 8 years, maybe. Holy cow, I was such an idiot, working my butt off for those years in an alien country so that my family could have a good life, and this was what they were doing. I asked her why didn't you divorce me if there was so much disconnect between us? She broke down again and said, "I love you. I never wanted to separate from you. Spending time with the affair partner was only to distress myself and kill my loneliness and nothing else. He doesn't mean anything in my life, really. After fooling around with him, he doesn't mean anything to her?" Wow. I looked at Mom and asked her how I had wronged her to deserve this betrayal from her. She sobbed and said, "I know you hate me, but think of my perspective. You left me alone here. Mona was taking care of me. She also has needs as a woman. I understand that, so I had to support her." Support her betraying me? When I got all my answers, I got up to leave. They both tried to stop me and followed me outside, but I warned them not to. I told Mona not to come home and that I want to be alone for a while. I drove back home sulking. I feel sick in my stomach. I don't know how I should react to this. Is this affair really my fault that I was wandering in a foreign country for my family's sake? This is so gutting. You've literally been away trying to provide for your family, and not only your wife but your own mother has replaced you and betrayed you. If Mona was feeling so lonely, there should have been conversations where living situations were revisited and feelings were made known. 7 or 8 years is a long time. That's not just cheating, she's completely built a new life with this guy. It's not your fault, but a marriage definitely takes two. You thought you were doing what was right, and you were trying to take care of your family financially. And as your mother, she should have supported you. She's wrong to have ever supported Mona. She should have spoken to you to let you know where things were with Mona the moment she thought Mona wasn't doing well without you back home. This is what happened next. I spent the next few days in my sorrows. Then I drove to Houston to meet my daughters. They were not kids, they deserved to know what their mom was up to when I was busy providing for them. I did this also to safeguard myself. My plan was to leave the country, and Mona could use that against me to manipulate my daughters. They were shattered to know the truth, but the elder one also said that sometimes she felt Mona and my mom were definitely up to something. She also said that she suspected my mom to be seeing a widower who lived 2 blocks away. Anyways, that's not my problem. My dad had passed away decades ago, so she could do whatever she wanted. But she was supporting Mona and all this, and that is a problem for me. The next day, I packed up my stuff and came back. Mona and Mom had been calling me since then. I think they came home to find an empty house, and that's when reality hit them. Yeah, I abandoned them. For the initial 1 month, the calls and texts were filled with sorries and pleadings and asking me to return home, but eventually they got concerned about the money. I had not blocked them deliberately. I wanted to see them getting anxious without money. I froze my bank accounts and credit cards. They lost their marbles with that. It was obvious because neither of them had any source of income. Mom was on a state pension, but it wasn't enough to cover the lifestyle they had been leading. They are desperately trying all means to get a response, but I have ghosted them. Mom has resorted to emotional blackmail, saying that Dad would have been so heartbroken to see that I have left her alone in this old age. All their pleas are falling on deaf ears. They had betrayed me so badly. I never suspected Mona of anything. I never checked her phone like people in long-distance relationships do, but I always respected her privacy. More than Mona, I felt betrayed by Mom. Sometimes when I had a dizzy feeling about Mona, seeing her strong bond with Mom made me feel lighter. In return, I get cheated upon. The reason they used to cover up Mona's cheating was so lame, like she was lonely, hence she decided to open her legs. She was feeling alone in her own house with children, surrounded by friends and family. Wow. If you compare it that way, I was lonelier, literally alone in a foreign land with no family or friends. I could have also brought someone inside my bed, but the difference is I didn't. I was so busy thinking about the well-being of my family that fooling around was the last thing that came to my mind. I was working hard, saving up so that I could move back home as soon as possible. When none of their advances got a response from me, they reached out to my daughters for help. Mona didn't know that I told the truth to the girls, and she did exactly what I had expected. Mona badmouthed me in front of them, saying that I had financially cut them off. She also alleged that I was having an affair in the Gulf or maybe had married someone there. After listening to all her BS, my girls gave it back to her and told her that they know the truth about her affair. They chased her away that day, but Mona has been reaching out to the younger one asking for help. The younger one is closer to Mona, and she's leveraging her innocence to extract money from her. Anyways, I'm not going to ask her to stop helping her mom. She's an adult and knows what to do. Mom also has been reaching out to my daughter for financial help. As for me, I'm still unable to move on from the feeling of betrayal. I have also not thought about divorce yet. It's going to dent my pocket unnecessarily. Divorce would be beneficial for Mona financially and also personally if she wants to marry the affair partner, but I'm not getting into that. She's already living in my house, and that's the maximum she can get from me. I'm out of the country and have no accountability, so whether divorced or not, it really doesn't matter to me. I'm trying to move on with my life. We'll update if anything develops. Take your time, Op. This is a huge blow. You're right to freeze the accounts. This whole time you're working your butt off to support them, and they do this to you. They don't deserve another cent out of you, and you have a great point, you were just as lonely in Dubai. You were far more alone than she ever was. At least she had friends and family around. Cheating could have been just as easy for you. Update 3, here's what happened next. After I financially cut them off, they tried all the resources they could. My older daughter refused to help them, but the younger one got manipulated into helping them. But she didn't earn much. She's in her first job with very little pay, which covers her basics. Despite that, she's saving some of it to help her mom. I felt proud of her actually. Eventually, she got exhausted helping Mona. She suggested Mona get a job to sustain herself, but Mona took her for granted, saying that it was her responsibility to take care of her mother in her time of need. My younger daughter did whatever she could from her little income, but when it became too much for her, she cut her off. Mona couldn't marry the affair partner as she is still married to me, so she has been reaching out to me for a divorce. She has been threatening me with all sorts of legal consequences, but you know what? I don't care. I'm out of the country. I don't think she has enough knowledge or resources to sue me in a cross-border setup, and even if she does, there's no punishment for abandoning your cheating wife as per the law of this land. So yeah, good luck with her legal notice. Current status of Mona is that she is working as the affair partner's shop, and I don't know what she's getting in exchange for her service, money or something else. The affair partner doesn't have a proper house. He lives in his camper, and he also has an ailing father to take care of, so he's also financially not strong enough to provide for Princess Mona. As far as my mom is concerned, now I sometimes feel bad for scorning her and want to help her out, but she gets a pension, and that should be sufficient for her to survive. She brought that on herself. I might make it up with her in the future, but not right now though. She has said sorry for what she has done. It didn't feel like she was genuinely sorry for her actions. So I'll wait for the day when she genuinely repents her mistakes, my anger subsides, and my love for her overpowers my emotions. Some of you advise me to move on and enjoy the vibrant lifestyle of Dubai. Funny though, it is not as hunky-dory as it looks on social media. That royal, mesmerizing lifestyle portrayed on social media is not for all. It needs money, a huge lot of money, so I'll skip that for now. Laws concerning women are also quite strict here. Also, I'm not interested in using women's bodies to get over my grief. But yes, I have been traveling a lot since then. I have been to China and Bali so far. There's a long list of other Asian countries and cultures that I'm planning to explore subsequently. We'll initiate a different thread to share my travel experience. Thanks for all the love and support. Honestly, your mom really screwed you over. You shouldn't feel bad. She did this to herself just as much as Mona did. And as for your love for her, not sure that we'll ever be the same. And your love doesn't have to overpower your emotions. Love changes, and you can love the woman you thought you knew, but not sure it will ever be the same. What's important right now is just going with the flow. Feel the feels. You have two beautiful kids who love and support you.